you move around and then you're just challenging each other, doing different stuff. Like as someone who doesn't ride trials, I feel weirdly like I really get it.
Yeah, pallets are class. They look like super trashy, and it just looks like your neighbours hate you because it's like you've got this like, I don't know,
fire.
Yeah,
about to
it just
burn.
looks so crap. It sounds bad. They're just like, but for trials riders, it's so good because it's just this like modular setup.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
good for trials dorks.
what is that? What you did at the start? Is that how you got into it? So this is first on my notes. I'm going to be completely transparent. How did it start?
So in trials,
yeah. Like, what was the first thing you put on the floor? What was the first thing that got you into it?
So it's weird because I think, like loads of folk, it was kind of like the MBUK tricks and stunts times, which I don't know what's that,
Ashton
like
Horse.
2000, no, like 99, 98, 99. And I feel like along with like my friends in Inverness, which is where I live now, the Scottish Highlands, which has got like such a good scene now. We were basically, me and my friends, getting into bikes, like trying a bit of BMX and like riding downstairs on like our mountain bikes. And I knew what to do bikes, but we kind of had this like period of sort of figuring out which discipline you're going to go down. I can almost remember being in like school at like break and stuff, and we like kind of discussing like which direction we're going to go with it, even though we were like 12. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking
a round
like,
table.
Yeah, and it's like it was weird because trials is almost like a thing. I don't know what it is, 'cause it's still the same to this day. It seemed to be like, even though it is super accessible, it was almost like not necessarily the done thing to do trials. It's like, oh, you can maybe do BMX because there's a skate park, or you do mountain biking because there's trails, and there's like a bit of a blueprint to it. And then I remember just being like, oh, this thing that like Martin Hawes and Martin Ashton do, which I'm looking at in MBUK. I'm like, I think I might just like do that, and that's pretty much it. And basically riding like a 17-inch like giant, like squeezing the seat down as low as you can, like grinding down the teeth off the biggest cog to try and make it bash guard. And then just one day, out of chance, well, not that big a chance because it's Inverness, it's just a small town, we bumped into these guys who actually had proper trials bikes. They're maybe like 4 or 5 years older than us. And they just like took us in like after meeting us one day in town, and we just rode with them, and then they just gave us like a little bit of a sort of blueprint to like what it is, what a bike is. And then
was that 20-inch or was that 24?
Nah, so we'd be like, right, so at the time I'd be riding like a 26-inch mountain bike, but trying to do trials on it.
Yeah.
And they would have like, it wouldn't even be what we call trials bikes now, but like a sort of a Zonic like DS1 or DS2, remember like the black and red one?
Yeah,
with like the seat slammed down, like the smallest size. But for them, that was like a proper trials bike then.
I've talked to you about it before, but I did trials for a long time as well when I was younger.
Yeah, you had a
Not
Monty,
like competitive, but I had a Monty. But I had a 20-inch,
Yeah.
I had a 20-inch and I had an OT-P video.
Oh, the
I'm
Dream?
I'm breaking. I'm pedaling, I'm breaking. That's why I remember him.
Yeah, because there's also tricks and stunts as well, which is around about the same time, which is basically like what was a how-to of how to ride trials. And I remember just like watching that all the time. And
who first did street trials? Would you say it's those boys?
Yeah.
Who made it not competition trials? Because I've got to say there's a massive difference. We talked about it on the way here. I was trying to not talk about stuff that we talk about in the podcast, but there's a really big difference between what you do. Yeah,
it's weird because it's not just like this consistent like path. It's always been like a bit random. And I was actually speaking to the boys about it the other day because we obviously had Glasgow World Champs on last week, and you have like the sort of Monty, the whole Monty thing, which kind of came out of Spain, which was essentially, I think, born out of like Montesa, which was like the trials, motorbike trials.
Yeah.
And it became almost like the sort of trials competition side, and that was almost like, I don't know if it predates mountain biking, but it's like almost the same time as mountain biking was starting, which was what, like the
it makes
70s?
sense because trials motorcycles. Cycles were already a thing, I guess. So,
but that was very much like more trials, like natural obstacle based, because it was all about like a training mechanism for motorbike trials, or like something that the kids, like motorbike like trials kids could do.
To do in the pits,
But then I guess at the same time you have mountain biking in California kind of blowing off. And then, I suppose it was always very like natural competition based. And then you had obviously the likes of like Hans Rey, which obviously just, he actually came from that. He obviously came from Europe and doing those kind of comps. then went to America at the time where mountain biking was kicking off, and he kind of bridged that gap, like, in a pretty cool way.
Him in the traffic.
Yeah.
So cool. Is he on the roof of a car?
Yeah, he's like on a taxi. It's like a Swatch advert or
That's
something.
it.
Yeah. It's such a cool photo. And that's like so iconic, and I think I got like so much coverage. Because like I guess photos back then were almost like viral videos that we see today.
So from the outside now, I see just glimpses of competition trials.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare it to, you've got the creatures on the mainland, yeah, and they're just, you know, your bog standard like foxes and stuff and badgers. Then you've got the small island, the small offshore island, right? And then there's like a fox, but it has two tails. You know, on the weird island, it's like it's evolved on its own, separate to everything else. Like, I feel like Street Trials has like this. I mean, it's got mass appeal, hasn't it? Like the stuff you guys riding obstacles that people can relate to, and then you've got people in lycra with really long stems, like hopping up waterfalls. It's way harder to picture yourself do it. And I'm not like casting shade on it. I think competition trials is rad, but
like it's a hard one because I think the level of what those guys do now, like I was watching it for the first time in ages, like the other day in Glasgow, it's insane what they do. Like, and I think just because of the nature of it, it's almost unfortunate that the optimal bike to take them over those sections and stuff doesn't look like a normal bike. It's weird, but they're kind of in a difficult position because you can't ride. If you were to sort of try and like make, for example, there's a rider who's rides street trials as well as competition trials on an insane level. His name's Joachim. He's from Sweden. He just rode the comp on his street trials bike, and he's like insane, but he'll never be able to compete with those guys on that bike.
Right, talk me through. So what's his name? Jack
Carthy. So he won the world championship for like the 10th time on. There's probably even more. So sorry, Jack, if I got that wrong. But yeah, he's like.
So he's got rainbow stripes. His bike's sat there. Your bike's sat here. Talk me through the difference between those two bikes.
So I guess, well, for the start, he's going to have no seat, which I think from an immediate sort of outsider standpoint immediately looks kind of odd. But again, a seat just gets in the way. So if you put a seat on his bike, it's going to be more weight. It's getting in his way. It's going to be a disadvantage.
Okay, and the advantage of that would be just weight.
I guess in addition to the seat, it's going to be way longer. Like, it's basically designed to be on the back wheel. Like, the new modern style of riding those sections is like stay on your back wheel as much as you can. You can like turn on like a postage stamp, ride along skinny things so easily, and just be on the back wheel. And I think that's why people start thinking it looks like more like a pogo stick or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, his bike looks crazy.
It's like super long. He's one of the taller guys as well, I think. So he actually kind of pioneered like the whole bars like way forward. Yeah. And like did it so well that everyone just kind of had to get on board with that if they wanted to.
So do you know what numbers we're talking for like a stem or for like the bar?
Honestly, I don't even know, but like I'd have like a 110 mil stem, which is still pretty big. Yeah. But they'll have like, I don't know, like huge stem, bars way further forward. The front end's going to be super long, back end's super short, really high bottom bracket. So it's not even really got that like sort of bike shape. It's just like almost like a straight. You could almost have, and some of the bikes almost are just like a straight bar. Yeah. From like the axle, like up to the steerer tube. But it's amazing for getting them through those sections. But I think they do suffer because it just doesn't look as kind of
like a bike
appealing, or it doesn't look as relatable.
What's the difference what's the reason for it being longer?
I guess just all about just being like super good on like comfortable on the back wheel. And they can pretty much like, you can almost, when you're on the back wheel of those bikes, you can pretty much like see the rear axle, which is obviously really beneficial to when you're like riding along something really skinny. And like you're literally right over it. And then you've got all this leverage to do these, like, you see it, you go like, you literally got from there to like pretty much the top of this rim to front wheel, and they just. Yeah.
So it is leverage, Yeah.
So and it's insane what they do. And I don't mean to badmouth them at all, because what they do is so much more powerful than like what we do. It's
I don't think you badmouth them at all. I think it's like, I think it's mega cool actually that there's these two kind of completely different things. My island analogy maybe is off, but I don't actually think it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with the animals with I don't think there's anything wrong with the fox with two tails.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be mean about it. I think it's actually cool.
Yeah.
I think that they're just obviously evolving on their own for one purpose, which I think is. But then equally, they probably look at your bike and think, what the fuck's he doing?
Yeah.
Why is his cable so long? Why is?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I guess it's almost a different. Well, it is essentially a different sport, even if you might not even call it radio sport, but it's like two disciplines. We just share the name, I guess, and some sort of common background and overlapping skills, but it's so different.
So components wise, there's no swap. You would use different tires? You would use
pretty much
different size wheels? Same size wheels?
Yeah. So like, well, I personally ride 24. Like Ali Clarkson's on 26, which is what you'd find on a comp bike.
Okay.
But comp bike's actually 20 and 26, which again I think's a complicated. It's like when it comes to sport, which is essentially entertainment, isn't it? I think anything complicated, you're potentially going to lose people.
Yeah.
And that's another example. It's like you get 20 and 26, and both are amazing. The riders that ride 20 are amazing. The riders that ride 26, but it's like, I was watching the competition the other day, and it's kind of a random thing to have like two elite men competitions, and one being on a 20 and one being on a 26, and you get two world champions. Yeah. It's like having downhill. Imagine having a downhill race, and it's like, okay, cool, like we're gonna have elite men riding like full 29ers, and then
mixers.
Yeah, but they're riding really the same sections.
So
but
right,
but it'd be really hard to take either away, because both of them have like so much history in like the sport.
Yeah.
And if they did take it away, people would be up in arms.
I was thinking
people would lose out.
Yeah, I was thinking with ideas, you've got to be able to like put them in a sentence. Yeah. You know, like almost like the lift pitch or whatever. Whereas it's too complicated.
Yeah, people are like gone. Like, and as soon as you don't understand it, it's so much harder to like get invested in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one. I guess there's no sort of easy answer. I suppose trials sits in that sort of weird place where like BMX is so obviously like urban, and it's like you would call it like an urban action sport, where trials kind of, I think by the UCI it is labelled as urban, but it is, if you watch it, it's quite like performance, kind of Olympic, kind of like, I don't know. So I feel they have a little bit of a bit of confusion with like the actual identity of it, and then again that's just like another thing that just makes it a little bit more confusing and harder for people to get behind and get invested with.
So what got me when I was younger with trials was the same thing with climbing. So it was like problems, and it was like problem solving. You got to get from A to B, and like how you're going to do it. And I loved just failing, doing it again, failing, and then you work out a technique, or you know, I'm talking like I was low level as a kid.
Yeah.
But I loved. I had a scaffold board on the floor. It wasn't even like we're like riding along scaffold boards, getting onto another, turning around. Like each of those problems were so exciting, and I feel like it's like that. Yeah, it's the same with climbing. Like I loved climbing for the same reason. Like, what did you get into trials from that angle? Like where it was like a mini version of competition riding, or was it always more like performance based, or like tricks, or?
Nah, it's a weird one, because I actually, for me, trials initially was always about street. So like I'd be riding like a mountain bike, but in the street, and all the people, we'd just ride street trials all the time. Like there was no competitions really where we were, other than like the odd random competition that should be like held on, not in like a woods, it'd be like in like a warehouse with some random like cable reels and pallets.
Yeah.
Classic pallets. So yeah, it was always a bit more urban for me initially, but weirdly I then went to the competition side for a bit.
Yeah, cool.
Because I just got in, I don't know, I just kind of gravitated to that. And then I kind of came back again to street.
So when you say it was urban, it was still urban, like you're still trying to clean a section?
Nah, like we would just be riding in Inverness, like my hometown, and you'd just be like you'd just be like doing one hit, just like finding a wall and try to gap it, or finding a wall to rail and gapping from the wall to the rail.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really ever do like sections. Okay. Unless you'd maybe like find some pallets out the back of like a sort of timber yard and maybe make a bit of a section.
Yeah.
But it was always very just like,
so it wasn't
chill.
floor is lava.
No.
It wasn't really like,
you literally just be making, you would try and ride like anything.
Yeah.
If you found a rock, if there's like the Morrison's car park had some rocks in it, you would ride the rocks. Or if it's like, you would just take what you could get basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I thought I definitely used to play floor as lava,
Yeah.
for sure. But then I never did it competitively, so I can't really sort of compare anything or.
I guess modern trials competition is kind of like floor is lava, where they're, if you were to see like the sections of Glasgow, even though they can go down on the ground and they're like come back up and stuff. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mental, aren't they? Like,
oh, it's honestly insane what they do. I couldn't believe like the size of the stuff that they do. It's like,
really?
oh, it's insane. Yeah.
So what was your experience like in Glasgow recently for World Champs then?
Just like being blown away by like the sort of power and like, well, it's just like any sport, I suppose.
Yeah.
But just like the sort of the height that they'd be able to get up, the gaps that they can do, just from like a static to like another static. Because like those bikes are just like designed for like maximum like
Thrust.
gaps and thrusts, and whereas what we do, obviously we still try and go like big with like going up to back wheel and things and stuff. They're just like based in the gym doing squats and stuff. And we're just sitting there sipping beers, doing a few manuals around the streets.
Well, I guess manuals are like, a lot of what you do is such a mixture of loads of other stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't it? See, I was thinking about back to the bike. If you can get a bike's front wheel over an edge, then you can basically get up that.
Yeah, that's with the leverage of the new bikes, they can pretty much, within reason, if they can get their front wheel to basically touch the other side and with grip, they'll just like get their body weight like over the front and just like lever themselves up it. It's crazy.
I find that really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Anything you do onto front wheel, for some reason, I find.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do that, or like. Yeah, so.
I think like any mountain biker knows how difficult it is to basically do anything in a controlled manner, like if on the front wheel, whether or not you like ended up there intentionally.
Yeah.
No, it's like you're just like usually a passenger. So if you do it anything controlled, it's like fair play.
Yeah, it's really impressive, isn't it? Right, so you one of my questions on my comprehensive notes are about street trials. Really, you basically would say you started on street trials, and it was just all completely natural. It was just like getting up stuff.
Yeah.
And then when did you start doing like tricks? And what was it that like made you do that? Like within your scene or whoever you ride with, what was it like?
Like I say, we just had, for some reason, there's always this like pocket of trials riders. Like we're pretty few and far between.
Yeah.
We always have been. There's been sort of different times over the years where it's been more or less popular, but it's always been pretty small. And there just happened to be the scene in Inverness. And these older guys who were like super cool with like just taking us under their wing and showing us how to ride, and that's basically what we did for like the first like 3 or 4 years.
Why Inverness? Why do you reckon?
I don't know really. There was a bike shop called Highland Bikes in Inverness, which was always really good in stocking bikes, like trials bikes, even if it was just like Onzas or like a giant like Martin Hawes.
Yeah.
So it would always be like, they'd always have at least like one of those bikes sitting in the window.
Yeah.
So I think even just like, because you know it's like with anything, like it just needs that little...
All you need, isn't it? Really?
That little sort of spark, just to kind of get it going. And then, like if it wasn't for them, maybe the guys that I bumped into wouldn't have been there, and I would never have met them. I maybe would have just ended up... I'm sure I would have carried on riding, but I would have maybe then bumped into some mountain bikers or something, and I would have gone down that path. So I think it could have been something like so small as those guys just stocking bikes and a few people buying them, and it just kind of, once the scene kind of starts. Because I would say for a while, there's probably more trials riders in Inverness than like the rest of Scotland combined.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's rad. Who are you looking up to then? Like street trials wise, not like competition. Were there? Because I remember the tongues. I'm sure you can fill in more, but I remember the tongues being super different because it was like they were like BMX style. They had shorter stems. They would do.
Yeah, like because Eddie and Matt Tongue were so like, because he did come from BMX, I think.
Yeah.
So he had like a really smooth kind of streety style, even though he would sometimes do like comps.
Yeah.
He'd never take it that seriously, but you have like Eddie and Matt Tongue, Chris Akrigg, Martin Ashton, Martin Hawes. Those would be like the ones you'd always see in like the magazines.
Yeah.
And I definitely think if those guys weren't in the MBUK at like that time when we were getting into it, I probably would have just be, I don't know, doing some other discipline of mountain biking.
Yeah.
And then of course you have like Hans Rey, who was in the Tricks and Stunts video as well. That's like the villain.
Yeah. Tricks and Stunts is good,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Yeah.
it's class. It's honestly insane because it's funny because even though Hans lives in America, actually probably of all those guys, I actually know Hans like the best out of most of them because we've like gone and stayed at his house and stuff, and he's such a legend and he's so great, so funny. Yeah.
I learnt a lot from him going to his show where he talked about his career. I thought it was so interesting.
The talk in London.
Yeah, I mean, if you're from a pro rider perspective, it's like he's like the action figure of himself.
Yeah,
and it's none of it's by accident. It's all completely
100%
smart guy, eh?
Yeah, it's all about being proactive, and there'd be so many younger riders, like our young up and coming riders now would learn so much.
Yeah, from
Hans' approach and how to actually make a career at mountain biking. And yeah, well, he's kept it going for a long time. Was he like 70 or something now, isn't he?
Yeah, you can make that joke. Right, we're going to find out more after the break. Our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it literally every single day.
Same. I drink it literally every day as well.
And I have since they've become a sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah, man. And some say...
And a bit before.
Yeah, a little bit before as well. We did a little bit of a test, didn't we?
Yeah.
Some people have said that the podcast wouldn't be what it is without us being optimized, nutritionally sound, and just genuinely feeling better.
Dude,
but
absolutely.
I think that's probably true.
I tell you the biggest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have all of these little pots and little boxes and powders and all of these different little vitamins and minerals and stuff and supplements.
Yeah.
I would take, and it would take me ages to get them all out of their little twisty bottles and their pipettes and their little tiny things.
Like Pac-Man in the kitchen.
And every day I had to do that.
Yeah, it's too much, man.
Dude, it's too much. Now I get up, I have my AG1.
Super easy as well, isn't it? Whether you're using a scoop out of the tin or you're using a travel pack. Shall I do a quick AG1 just to show you how easy it is?
Show how easy it is to cover all your nutritional bases, dude.
Okay.
Here we go. This is when it starts getting really good for audio listeners, isn't it? Because
yeah, really good for audio listeners.
Shall I explain what you're doing?
Yes, please.
Davey's just taken one of the travel packs, which we'll get more onto later on. He's tipping it actually not even into his shaker. He's just doing it into a glass because he doesn't even have his shaker with him because he used it at home this morning. So he's now, right, he's just, okay, this is a remix, dude. This is a remix.
Okay.
Can you explain the remix?
Yeah, okay. Some people choose to use water. Tap water is absolutely fine. Just some of that. We got some of that. You know, you can pour a little bit of water in there like this.
Yeah, okay. He's pouring the water. Yeah, he's pouring
the water. What I like to do, though, Ollie, is I like to use coconut water. It's ever so tasty, and it's even better if it has a yellow sticker on it.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm going to put some coconut water into this.
Right. I'm going to go through some facts whilst you're mixing that up. AG1 replaces your multivitamin, probiotic, and more in one simple, drinkable habit. Science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. AG1 is raising the standard for quality in the supplement category. It helps you build your health foundation first, and you probably can hear Davey stirring that up right now.
Yeah, it's stirred, mate. It's ready to go, and that's it. It's as simple as that, dude. You literally put your packet in, or your scoop, a little bit of water or coconut water if you choose to, and then you know you're going to be nutritionally sound throughout the day. Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick swig.
Have a swig.
All right.
Can you hear him? He's enjoying it. In case you're not watching, he is enjoying it. Covering his nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be easier, which is why Davey trusts AG1. Isn't that right?
That's correct, dude. So, if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D or vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase.
Pretty good.
Go to drinkag1.com/ridecompanion. That is
drinkag1.com/ridecompanion. Ride Companion.
Okay, that's drinkag1.com/ride companion. And right there, you will find out how to get your free travel packs, free vitamin D, delivered to your door, nutritionally sound, ready to be optimized, ready to kick ass in the world. It's as easy as that. All the details are in the show description. So what are you waiting for? Support the podcast and get involved.
All right. Thanks, AG1.
Thanks, AG1.
The funny thing is, right, how there's a thing with Hans, and whenever he gets drunk, this is probably only going to make it worse. Whenever he gets drunk,
Just digging
he
yourself further.
no, this is fine. He like has this thing where he like tries to fight me, basically. I don't know
Really?
why. Yeah.
Right, what are we talking about? What are the numbers at the minute?
Not
Are
like
you
I
undefeated? Is Hans undefeated?
No, I usually just run away, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I wouldn't want to fight with him.
no, absolutely not. He's a formidable force.
Absolutely, dude, yeah.
But yeah, honestly, that do you see like the way he does this like coffee book thing,
Yeah.
and he basically will like take so much time to show his sponsors like everything that he's done, and that's something that
I feel like
I know I don't do it, and younger riders definitely don't do it, and like that's the reason to be able to do that and actually prove your worth to all your different sponsors is
I got told about that years ago, like when I was
it's like this like
young
mythical thing in mountain
media
biking, isn't it?
rider. 'Cause
Yeah.
I feel like we're probably in the same boat, aren't we? We're media riders or
Yeah.
whatever you'd want to call it, which always makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
Whatever. And someone told me about Hans's book and the Clutch company, and how the Clutch, you know, the
Oh,
Luck,
yes.
was it?
Yeah, yeah.
And for years they sort of like it was like marketing managers change, and quite often your relationship is only as good as the marketing manager.
Yeah,
And for years
100%.
they just couldn't turn him down. That he'd bring in the book every year,
Yeah,
and they'd
that's
just
like-
be like, "Well, yeah, we're going to sponsor you again." And even if they wanted to not sponsor him, they couldn't.
Yeah.
Not after. I feel like that a bit of that's lost now through social media and the internet. It's like people just kind of expect it. I guess because your book's online in a way, isn't it?
It's just like everything's tracked now, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's hard to try and I guess we have it with like the shows. It's kind of the same with like print media. It's hard to try and sort of
Summarise
sort
it,
of
yeah.
stake a claim to like how much that's worth, because they don't have like well, I guess they have like circulation numbers and stuff, but it's not quite as precise as social media stats, is it?
No, quite right. But I think it's. I mean, the cool thing about trials. Well, I'd probably say I come from dirt jumping, and what I like about dirt jumping is it's like it is accessible. It is
Yeah.
like, and it can just make your childhood really fun. Like you have to dig jumps, you have to learn to ride your bike. Arguably one of the best ways. I think trials fits into the same category. It's like you get to be like creative, and it doesn't cost loads, and you can just do it in the streets. And I think that, like, I think I'm almost kind of jealous that the fact that you can do shows, and you can, because there'll be a kid in every single show you do. I bet that takes something from it, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I love doing the shows for that reason, because it's all well and good getting like, I don't know, 500,000 views on like a reel that like goes semi-viral one week or whatever. But it's still so fleeting, isn't it? It's just like, fair enough, 500,000 people have seen like that video or a part of that video, but there's definitely no substitute. And I can remember it when I was younger as well. Like, obviously, you'd be inspired by seeing those guys in the magazines. But if you, like, I remember meeting Hans Rey in like Drummadrocket, which is this like random town in Inverness, and he was just like speaking to us. I was like 13-year-old kid, and like that that's just got like such a powerful effect on you, like getting into that sport. And hopefully the shows are similar to that, and you might only be able to do a show to like 1,000 people in a day, and that'd be a busy show. But that's surely better than
I always think that
500,000 views on Instagram, because that's like 30 minutes of those kids like watching you do it and get into it all and stuff. So, and luckily sponsors do. I think sponsors generally do appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I think so. They only have to be there, and
Yeah.
I think I have that exact same experience with riders when I was little. Like, it really, really impacted me. Like you're saying with Hans, really impacted me. Like, it feels different now a bit in comparison, because I feel like they sort of know you. I was just so nervous when I first like met PT, for instance. I was just like, it was such a big thing. And then when because they were sort of, I think before internet, people were held on a bit more of a pedestal. And there was a bit more mystery. You didn't know who they were as a person. When they give you time of day, it's like, it can actually change an awful lot, can't it?
100%. And like you say, it only takes like a little spark, and if that just keeps you going for the next 2 weeks of riding trials because you were that stoked on meeting them, and you just like, just snowballs, isn't it?
Yeah. Totally.
I think that's a good thing about mountain biking, because I honestly can't even think of, like you say, meeting people like Petey or Hans or Martin. I don't think I've ever had, like now or when I was younger, had a bad experience of meeting someone like that and it being a disappointment, or them not giving you more time than you probably expected.
Why is that in mountain biking, you reckon?
I'm sure it's probably the same in most sports and stuff, but there's definitely, or in most like kind of action and like adventure style sports.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. And maybe it's different in like more competitive stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about that sometimes. I think about how long it takes. Well, trials is a great example, like how the 10,000 hour rule or whatever. But to be able to do one of your shows, how long it actually takes to, because if you can easily watch the show, and watching you ride, watching Danny ride, watching the other guys ride, it looks like, it sounds really stereotypical, but it does sort of look almost like it comes very easily to you.
Yeah.
Because you've done, like, there's so many hours.
Yeah, when you think how many little gap jumps you've done, just like,
yeah,
you just have, I don't know. The show's like a funny one. We almost feel bad about it because the show has to be, I don't want to use the term easy, but it has to be easy.
Repeatable.
Yeah.
Has to
be repeatable.
Yeah.
It has to be repeatable, like when you're feeling shit. It has to be repeatable when you're, well, not have to, but it helps you. You're able to do it when you're hungover. Because it usually, like 50% of our shows happen like on the Sunday at a bike event.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just with like three guys with like zero willpower and ability to say no to anything. Yeah, and you have to do it in the rain. Like we did it in Fort William in the rain. So I don't want to say it's easy, but it kind of has to be easy compared to like what your sort of peak riding is. And it's all about finding, like, we call it like bang for your buck. It's like, what is the sort of best trade-off between like risk, difficulty, whilst making something look good? And I think that we've pretty much got that like formula down in the drop and roll show, and trying to like. But
it's really funny to me to imagine myself trying to do one of your shows, or like if you gave me a week.
That'd be good. We should do it sometime.
It would be actually, if I was better at YouTube, it would be so interesting to come up to you and try and just make my way around the course, because I'm not like good at trials by any means, but I'm not that awful either. And
I think you'd be surprised what you could do.
I don't know. I think you'd be surprised. I don't know. Well, I guess it's one of those things that it'd probably be made much easier with coaching from the right people.
Yeah, for sure.
I say that, but I asked you how to do Switzerland squeakers, and I've not got any.
But to be a Switzerland squeaker is a fairly advanced move, I would say. So I wouldn't feel too hard done by it not being able to.
That's all I got.
Wow, that's pretty good.
7. Do it. You do it in your sleep, dude. 7.
I don't know if I could do many more than 7 Switzerland squeakers, to be honest.
You could. Well,
it's not something I usually do, to be honest. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Right, fair enough. Talk me through a normal show then. So what is the layout of a show? So
usually in a typical show we'd have 3 riders, which is usually myself, Danny, plus one other. So if we're in the UK, it's probably going to be like Olly Clarkson. If we're out in Europe, it'd be a French rider who's called John Langlois. I don't know if you know him. He's a, like insane trials rider. We almost need to stop hiring him because he makes us look bad.
Street trials, specifically.
Yeah. Well, he came from a BMX background, and he's honestly a level of what he can do. So he's, again, it's like such a confusing like jumble of backgrounds and stuff. So we've come from like sort of trials background, and he's come from a BMX background, but he's learned all the trials stuff. So he's a completely different beast where he can incorporate like at ease, just like bar spins, tail whips, which is really cool to see. Again, it's just like another slant. But yeah, drop and roll show would be 3 riders. We've got an MC called Henry Jackson, who's pretty much the most important part of the show because he just gets everyone like riled up. and it lasts like 35 minutes. And again, we just try and come up with like the ultimate sort of package to get not just kids, but like as wide a sort of demographic as possible.
Yeah.
Like stoked on the show, stoked on bikes, and just like it is entertainment at the end of the day. And we just try and kind of just slowly build things up.
Not just
until
saying
it's
it.
like bigger stuff.
I saw a show at Fort Bill, and I think you do a cracking job. And
Did you see the show last weekend?
At World Champs.
I did.
Yeah.
Which one did you see?
I was in the. I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah.
It was on. I'm pretty sure it was on race day.
Ah,
I
okay.
saw the show on race day. I mean, basically, what I was going to say is it was raining, it was miserable, and you've got rows and rows of people completely captivated, absolutely loving it. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not actually an easy thing to do, and I think you do a cracking job.
Cheers.
No, not at all. No, I think you do. I think.
Nah, honestly, Fort William was so good though.
Yeah.
Like, not to take anything away from other crowds, but we just did a show at the Formula One, which was amazing. But they were like such a tough crowd compared to what you get at Fort William.
Yeah.
And in some ways, you're almost more nervous at Fort William because it's like a mountain bike crowd, and you don't
Home
want to
audience.
look like,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
home as well. It's like a double whammy for us. I mean, it was weird because we wouldn't like to admit, but me and Danny were actually like pretty nervous, or not nervous, but like not like.
Well, yeah.
Just like some level of like not anxiousness,
Anticipation.
Yeah.
Like it's.
and especially the rain and all that. But like as soon as it starts, because you're like in some ways you're like, oh, this is gonna be like such a tough crowd because they know what mountain biking is about.
Yeah.
You almost think maybe they know that that's easy or whatever.
Yeah.
But honestly, as soon as it starts, you're like, oh, it was so good. And we did the show. We did a show on Sunday in the rain. It was like after all the racing, and we were like walking around like, oh, like, what are we doing a show like in the afternoon? Everyone's gonna be like leaving. It's pissing down with rain. Like no one's gonna be here.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of like get ourselves going. And honestly, it was like so good. Like everyone was still there. It was pissing down with rain. Everyone was still stoked. We were like, there was like mud or like that clay in the car park. But it was like honestly one of the best shows we ever did.
Really?
And like
Yeah.
folk were just
Just
I think I helped it.
atmosphere-wise.
Like half the folk were probably blazing, but just like sitting there with their beers. But it was so good.
That's wicked. I love the speed, the race bit.
Yeah, that's a new thing that we just did this year, and
Is it?
it's honestly so fun.
I really like that because you can't help but actually be competitive. I'd imagine, especially with like a friendship like you boys have got. It's like you actually do want to win, don't you? So
yeah, we're trying to get the balance of like trying to ham it up a little bit and just like make it slightly wacky races and like knock each other off it without actually hurting each other. So it's good. It's good fun.
That's funny. Speed trials is not a thing in push bikes, is it?
It isn't, but like it makes me think after doing them in the shows for the last few months and like how well it's been received and how fun it is. It's just cool to add like for us selfishly, it's nice to add like a variable element into the show.
Yeah.
Because at least then you don't know what's going to happen. Everything else is like not fully rehearsed, but it's pretty predictable. Whereas the speed trials is like so random. And like, again, I don't want to, we were talking about earlier, I don't want to be influenced too much by like numbers, but you put like those clips online and they always do really well because everyone can just relate to like two people racing across like the same track and like knocking each other off.
It's like over the years I've been into mountain biking, it's like there's always this talk about like what thing can be the thing that translates to this mass audience that people talk about.
Yeah.
This mass audience is like a thing that we've got to capture. Like I certainly think you do a great job of it because you're on a phone box, for instance.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how big a phone box is. We can all relate to it, blah, blah, blah. Like if you actually think about like four cross even versus downhill.
Yeah.
Like downhill, that was a big turnout. I don't know how many people it was, but it was a proper crowd, wasn't it? And yet it's so hard really to watch when you're there. It's so hard to...
Yeah, I think with downhill, it's difficult because it's almost always really exciting.
Yeah.
But the stars have to line a little bit for it to really be...
Yeah.
Really, like, to get a proper class race where it's like... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to downhill because I love watching it, but I think as a... Like you say, if it was going to be that general audience, you kind of need something that maybe delivers a little bit more consistent. Like that sort of... And I guess they're always trying to do that with like the way that the riders come down and like... Because you ideally want like that last rider to be either like winning or at least like pushing for a win. So it's like a little bit at the mercy of like
Yeah, totally.
just circumstance.
The simplicity of just going against the clock is like really nice. I think it's nicer for a broadcast than it is in person. In person, it's very difficult. I mean, you only have to be at the top of the motorway and you don't know what any of the times are. So you're just watching someone come past.
Yeah.
Then you have to have like the live timing on your phone or the live feed.
Yeah,
like it's quite hard as a one in place, isn't it? Like,
yeah, for sure. Like it's cool to go to one like a year, but like
Yeah.
one race per year or something. But I think it's just like that broadcast has got so good.
Yeah.
I guess most sports are kind of the same as that. It's like it's hard to compete with that like spoon-fed highlight
Yeah.
as they're happening kind of thing.
It always shocks me. Like Four-cross at Fort William, I guess you've been going over the years. Four-cross was really exciting,
Yeah.
I think. And it's mad to me that didn't work. And I always sort of think about like this, whatever this format is that captures people either at an event or...
Is Four-cross, what is the deal with Four-cross now? There is still a Four-cross World Tour, is it not? Or is it?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's still Four-cross races and it's just become way more of a core thing, whereas it used to be... Like, I don't think there was Four-cross World Champs.
No, it's not UCI anymore, is it?
No.
Which is pretty, like I say, it's pretty mad when you think of it like that.
I mean, that's just head-to-head mountain bike racing.
Yeah.
If you simplify it the most, it kind of is, isn't it? It's like I can see how trials has its place. I can see how downhill has its place. I can see how cross-country has its place. But I can also see that there is a head-to-head element that is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess just making the course, try to like make the course right to really sort of just maximize the chances of having those races that are just a bit like sort of cat and mouse and
super hard, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's so hard.
Turns into a gate.
Because like at the end of the day, usually the strongest rider is going to get out first, and then more often than not, they'll probably get away. Like the BMX race, for example, we went to see it on Sunday. It was super cool, and like they go so fast. But again, it's like I don't know what the stats are, but more often than not, the person who gets out front wins. If you could try and figure out a way of just like
how can you make
few more
the first three pedal strokes?
More variables to basically have more changes. But I suppose every sport has that issue because like look at Formula One, it's falls into that trap as well.
Yeah, and I feel like that in their infancy, they're sort of this like golden era of like just pure hype and everyone loves it. But actually, when people get good at stuff, it almost makes it more boring, doesn't it? Like I was just thinking that about your speed trials race thing. It would just turn into first three pedal strokes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. If you made the course variable enough that there was a good chance that somebody would make a mistake. But yeah, it's just all about trying to think about how to make the course conducive to that.
It's a hard job.
Nightmare to ride.
It's a hard job. I wouldn't know what to do at all when it comes to that stuff. And it's sort of like you have this like responsibility for everyone's favourite thing. It's shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, I don't know. Right, I'm referring back to my notes now because I'm basically trying to not go to the Ask Dunc Anything questions just yet because I'm worried that there's all going to be ridiculous. Useful skills everyone could gain from trials riding because definitely it's helped me. What's helped you? Like what you said about being in the pandemic and like being the first time you've actually done like mountain bike riding. What helped you as a trials rider, would you say? Ride mountain bikes.
I guess it's just like no substitute for just being comfortable like on a bike and just like having, even though it's a different kind of bike, just like being second nature to just like having your feet on the pedals and having your hands on the handlebars. Yeah. That sounds like such a cop-out, but there's obviously just being comfortable on a bike. But then I think one of the things I realised when I was riding in Wales that winter is just like brake control. Yeah. And like just having that, even though I'd never really ridden mountain bike. Like I ride a bit of mountain bikes, but not in any like sort of meaningful way. It's just being able to, without really thinking about it, like pulling your front brake on a bit, but not locking it up, or pulling your back brake on whilst doing that. And you kind of had all that like in the locker, I think, from doing trials. And even though it's still like crap at jumps, crap at like corner and stuff like that, that can all kind of come.
You feel like you are crap at jumps?
Jumps, yeah, for sure. But like rest, like steep tech stuff and all that, I'm like way more comfortable because it's more similar to trials. And also it's just like what we ride up in Scotland because that's what we have. It's like it's hard work
It's
maintaining
interesting
jumps
that
in Scotland, so you just don't have that many
Yeah,
trails with them.
I know exactly what you mean about, because a trials bike and a jump bike are kind of the same thing. And when you feel like they're like old boots, you
Yeah.
just get on them and you feel super comfortable. Then I feel like I'm way better at all other kinds of riding, and that's on a jump bike. And I think a trials bike, I always watch people on trials bikes, and I just think, oh, love to be able to, like, almost. I haven't felt like that on my jump bike for many years.
Yeah.
Like where it's just second nature. It's just like I feel good on a jump bike, no doubt, but I don't feel just like give me a jump bike in a car park and I could entertain myself for an afternoon. I definitely like. Yeah, I really like that about trials, and I like that about BMX Street. Even though BMX Street, I don't really have much of an interest in doing it. I just think, wow, that's so cool that you can just have a car park and a bike and just
I think like in everything, like with stuff like trials and BMX or street trials and BMX, I'm sure it's the same with like skates. If you have grown up with maybe not that much stuff to ride, it almost makes you more creative rider in terms of like, right, well, I've only got this curb to ride. I can't just go and find a wall that's a bit higher. I need to think of like different ways to amuse myself, and instead of just like hopping up this curb, I'm going to do like a G-turn, I'm going to do a manual, I'm going to like do a 360 off it or something like that. So if you have like less stuff, in some weird way, it can almost make you like a better rider. Like I think Danny's a good example of that. He grew up in the Sky, which is like, he had even less riding than what I had. So he'd have only like a handful of walls to ride. So he couldn't just go and find a wall that's like twice as big as the one that he just learned to go up. So he has to just keep riding that same small wall. So he had to think like, oh, I'm going to like do 180 off it, or I'm going to do like a 360 pivot. Whereas like if you lived in London as a trials rider, you could be like, okay, well, I found this wall, I'm just going to go and find the wall that's like 3 inches bigger, and you'll maybe end up just being a rider that can ride up massive fucking walls. Whereas like if you had like minimal shit to ride, you become more creative and more like, I don't want to use the term freestyle, but like it's essentially what it is, I suppose.
So it's like creativity and repetition.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess.
I think repetition's a big one. I reckon you summarised it so much, like having less, because until recently there's not been, you know, Jackson ruins it a bit, but you think of like Whistler as like mountain bike mecca.
Yeah, I was going to that's a really good point. Because there's so many good riders, like what's like the max descent that you guys have around here?
Yeah, like 40 seconds,
Yeah, and then like think of all the top World Cup racers that have come out of that.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? I think like probably what you're saying is trials is the most extreme version of that.
Yeah.
It probably is, because even dirt jumping is like you have to build jumps, whereas trials you're just taking what's around you and like making fun out of it.
Yeah, and the mad thing about that, when you to go back to talking about like the benefit of having those like short runs, which you think would be like such a disadvantage. Even in France, like the top guys aren't even necessarily from like all those like ski resorts, are they? Like Loic, like Bruni and all those guys.
Yeah, it's true.
They're from like Nice, aren't they? Which obviously they have trails there, but it's not. They're not Mors. It's not. I'm sure they went to Morzine when they're younger and stuff. But there's got to be something to be said about like if you're learning to corner, if you session a corner.
Mate, that's so
you're going to learn a corner quicker than if you ride down a bike park, I think, for a 4-minute run. I don't know, because it seems like the sort of data seems to allude to that.
I've done some riding in Nice, and it was not A-line.
Yeah.
You know, it certainly wasn't fun. You have to like, it's like that making something fun, or like, it's like almost that get out of bed feeling, I think. Like it's kind of if you have like dirt merch, A-line on your doorstep, it must be quite hard to have that kind of...
Yeah, well, make you shit hot riding jumps, but is it going to make you a fast downhill racer? I'm sure it can. Like, obviously there is people like Jackson and stuff.
I hope Jackson doesn't listen to this. Shut up.
Well, to be fair, he can't exactly argue with anything that he's done.
No.
This is insane. Yeah, it's a funny one. There's a lot to be said about just... I guess it's just repetition, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always find that, I think it's as a trials rider, I would even though I live up in Inverness now and there's so many trails, I'd almost rather just session one trail and actually get good at riding that trail than like riding 10 trails once, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But. You still, if you had your bike here now and we went out in the car park, would you still feel like the same magic to like? There's a bit of weird question, but the reason I ask it is because I still get my jump bike out and just in a car park before I go riding trails, and I still like I do a 180 bunny hop, and I still feel like, yes.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much. It definitely varies a bit. Like,
yeah,
there's different times where like motivation's higher or lower, but I'd say overall, it's all still there in terms of stoke. And other than the fact that I'm injured at the moment, I still feel pretty good.
Trials, I think, requires the highest motivation. Would you say that's fair?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
I can roll like.
But to be fair, like climbing on a mountain bike's so crap.
Yeah.
At least like I think that's one of the reasons I kind of struggle with mountain biking, because I'd be like, I'm so used to going on my trials bike, and like even if I roll for an hour, other than maybe riding to the spot, which might take 5 minutes, but I'll still be like blasting over curbs and stuff.
Yeah.
The whole hour, I feel like I'll be expending energy, but it's all fun, and it's all like riding. Whereas when I ride mountain bikes, I'm like, unless it's some fun tech climb, I'm like 85% of the times quite shit, isn't it?
Hating
like,
it. Are you really? Yeah.
Well, it's just like climbing. I just guess I've never got to that stage of like, you know, if people are like, oh, I love a bit of a climb. I've not got there, to be honest, and I don't think I ever will.
It's well weird. I sort of like sometimes, weirdly now for me, I noticed it. It's actually it makes me feel sad saying it out loud, but I like sometimes lack motivation to get my jump bike out and go to the trails, just because mountain biking is easier and I can go out my door and I get like a workout in, and I get to ride fast and feel like whatever it is that you like about riding, like G's, and feel that you're good at biking and all of that. Like a dirt jump bike like requires more motivation. It's more like that trials.
Yeah, I think it's similar to trials in that sense. Yeah. You have to like, regardless of the climb and stuff, which obviously e-biking for me is like class because it pretty much takes out that crap part that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When I'm out my trials bike, it's very much like you need to make it happen. Like all the riding's there, but it's like there's so many variables you could ride over there, and it's like you have to kind of like get into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't get into it, and sometimes you just shit. Whereas when you're riding a mountain bike or an e-bike, that trail's like coming at you like no matter what.
Dude,
and
that's
it just it gets brought to you, and you just basically dealing with whatever comes your way, and it's just like it's just mint from. Other than like sometimes you might not be feeling it, but it's very rare to like ride in a trail and you might not be as fast as usual or whatever, but you're always going to be stoked.
You have to be motivated because it's coming at you.
Yeah, you don't have an option like.
Yeah.
Whereas like the trials is like, I'm sure it's the same for like skate.
Yeah.
Anything like that, you have to kind of like make it happen yourself, which
is
a good thing. And it makes it rewarding, but it does make it harder and require more motivation.
Makes it the most rewarding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Arguably. Well, I'm conscious of your time because you've got to get off you jet off to Ibiza after this, don't you?
Well, Glasgow, then Ibiza, yeah. What time are we at? What time is it?
We're on 3:00.
Ah, okay.
Is that good or bad?
It's not too bad.
We'll find out after the break. This is not an ad. This is an unboxing, dude. Because the internet loves an unboxing, doesn't it?
We're going to go viral after this one, mate.
I think we are. Yeah, dude, yeah.
Let's go viral.
I'm going to get to it. I don't know if there's any ASMR noises that you can hear from the unboxing on the audio.
You get unboxing, I'll get talking.
Okay.
WORX are one of our longest podcast partners. We've been with them for a long time, hacking boxes away as we go around talking about them. But yeah, WORX have been with us for a long time, mate. And they're arguably one of the most important things when it comes to being a biker, I'd say.
Oh man,
clean bikes,
life-changing when I got this.
Yeah,
this product here that you're about to introduce.
Yeah, life-changing. You can put that on the box, WORX. That's free. But yeah, I think having a clean bike is super important, and making it as easy as possible is also super important. I used to live in a house that didn't have a garage. Actually, still do. But also, it meant that bringing a dirty bike home was really difficult. So it was really handy to have this. You can just, we'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, it made cleaning really easy. I'm butchering this. Keep going. Okay, so let's go from the WORX website. So more power beyond your imagination. This is the new one, mate, with the 56 bar body.
We got a pivotal moment. What product is this?
This is the WORX HYDROSHOT.
Ooh.
All right.
Listening, I just pulled it out of its final bag. Look at that thing.
That's a work of art, actually, isn't it? That's actually quite cool.
It is. So this is the updated one.
This is a new one.
It was life-changing for me when it was half pressure.
Yes.
So
they've doubled it, but it's not like too much.
no,
It's not going to blow your bearings all over your driveway or all over the trails. It's just going to be enough. And also, don't just think about it as a thing for your bike, mate. Just around the house, you can clean anything and everything, right? You can do the dishes with it if you really want.
probably be quite good.
Yeah.
So it's a battery-powered pressure washer offering 56 bar. It runs off the WORX Power Share battery system. So
Correct.
for me, this is the dream because I have an impact driver, I
Yeah.
have a chainsaw.
I've
They
got a
all run off-
strimmer,
You've got a strimmer,
drill.
yeah. There you go. And they all run off the same batteries.
Yeah.
Like that it is nice, isn't it?
It is. So I just have like 2 batteries on go all the time.
Yeah.
So one's charging, one's actually active in the tools, and I just swap between them whenever you need to change it.
Dude,
Super
dream.
helpful, dude. And the cool thing is with the WORX HYDROSHOT is it draws water from any source. So when you buy it in the box, you're gonna get a we might have it here. Do you have the bucket? Do we get the bucket?
There's like a fold-up bucket. That's right.
Yeah.
But it can be any water source. It can be a stream, like at your house.
Yep.
You used to run it off the stream,
Used to
didn't
run
you?
it out the river, yeah.
And then it just filters it with
Yep.
this on the end. So it's perfect for like a race weekend. DV, actually, our race correspondent, just borrowed my HYDROSHOT. Better give
Nice.
it back, actually. DV, give it back. But he borrowed it just for the enduro race on the weekend at Minehead.
Perfect. Makes sense. Yeah,
Absolutely.
super easy to have. Small, compact, breaks down really easy. It's not going to take up loads of space in your van and stuff. I remember the power petrol washer we used to have was gnarly because it was so big. You used to have to drag it around, take a
Noise of the
generator
thing
with
as
you as
well.
well sometimes to power it. It's gnarly.
Absolutely. So if you live, let's say in a flat, like I used to live in a flat, that's when WORX changed my life. And
Yeah, of
I'm not even joking, man.
Yeah.
I used to bring my bike through the house, dog poo all over it. There was just no way of me really getting it done
Yeah.
other than bringing a bucket out with washing up liquid, and,
Ugh.
scrubbing. Every ride is too much.
Yeah.
The HYDROSHOT made my life so much easier and made my bike spotless. And I can tell you it didn't damage my bearings because it just didn't.
Yep. Mate, real world evidence. This one's an easy one to talk about.
It isn't.
And I feel like everyone who owns a bike or not should have one of these at their disposal in the garage or wherever it is you want to keep it. Now, the best thing is about WORX and the HYDROSHOT is we've got a discount code for the first time in a long time. We've been talking about these products for ages,
actually?
but yeah, we couldn't really send people anywhere, but now we can, which is rad. So WORX have offered up a 15% discount off the HYDROSHOT, any product on the website, apart from, there is an edit here, apart from the lawnmower. The robot lawnmower.
The robot
Can't do that one. That's crazy
Can't
expensive
have
as
that.
well. It's a
Okay,
lot of money.
yeah,
So
fair
not
enough.
that, but everything else on the site, you can get 15% off if you head to worx.com or uk.worx.com, either or. It depends where you are in the world. And enter the code, the Ride Companion, capitals.
I like it that we've got a universal code.
Yes.
Just people
Any
are going to
website,
start.
basically.
Yeah, people are going to start entering on any website. So that's worx.com.
Yeah, or uk.worx.com, either or. You can get
Either
to
or.
them. Yeah. Enter the code, the Ride Companion, 15% off anything and everything on site, delivered to your door as well. They're giving you a discount, and they'll ship. You don't have to go pick it up.
You don't even have to pick it up.
They'll ship it to you as well.
Wow.
Dream.
Big up WORX.
Big up WORX.
Big up the HYDROSHOT.
shot.
Ollie, honestly.
Honestly.
I was reading power off the back. Thanks, WORX. Peace. Right, the questions we have are...
Shit. This is
That's
where
quite
my
a
friends
fucking-
have probably screwed me over. Like,
Right, here we are. Are we back? Are we back in? Right, it's Ask Dunc Anything. Can we get a jingle for that, Naomi? She says no. Sorry, dude. I can't get a jingle. Too expensive. Ride home. Why'd you bother with a saddle? Cry face, cry face, cry face.
I actually still use it. Like, it's the saddle on my trials bike isn't like a decorative piece. Like, whilst it looks kind of stupid, well, and people might think it's pointless because you can't sit down and ride, but it's so much nicer having a seat on a trials bike because if I'm like riding to a spot, I'll just like blast the pedals, sit down, blast the pedals more, sit down. So I'm still like sitting all the time. And if you're like going down the hill, you just like sitting as opposed to just like standing up the whole time.
So it does have a function.
Yeah, it's definitely on a street bike. It's definitely not just decorative, but it's like a convenient thing to have because it definitely helps. Like just that having that seat on that bike is pretty much the reason why we have sponsors. I think. Like if it didn't, I think it would just be a step too far for it being
like a
like
step ladder.
relatable and at least similar to the bikes that our sponsors are making and selling.
I mean, it's exactly this. The exact same question is possible for a dirt jump bike. Like,
yeah, because you guys can't pedal them.
no, you just sit at the top of a roll-in, don't you?
Yeah.
My dad was too drunk once, and he wanted to go and get cigarettes from the petrol station. This is a good story. This isn't it? And he was trying to. Don't know if I should. Anyway, he wanted to drive to the petrol station to get cigarettes. All right, and we wouldn't let him because he was too drunk. So I said, "You can go on my dirt jump bike."
Oh, he's wanting to drive.
He wanted to drive. Yeah.
Didn't catch that.
Terrible story. Thanks for highlighting it, dude. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah. So he's taken my jump bike, and he's gone off down the road. And I sort of I was annoyed with him. I was annoyed at the time. I was like, oh, why is it? Oh, we really need cigarettes at this time of night. Why does he have to? I was annoyed with my dad. I sat at home for a bit, and I was like, I feel a bit bad letting him out on my bike, even if he's on the path on my bike. He's not in any state to be riding a bicycle along a pavement. So then I've head out on another bike, and I ride towards the petrol station, and I can just hear, and it's his arse in the back wheel, and he's just pedaling. He's just
enduring it.
He's just enduring the rubber burns. Worst story ever.
Pats are halfway down his ass.
Exactly, yeah.
I love the fact that he's just enduring it, not just taking one buzz of it and thinking, "Oh, I'll just stand up." Then.
He didn't think to stand up.
But that's but if you're not a rider, it's actually kind of hard, when you kind of have that hover.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to sit down.
Like when people ride bent legged.
Yeah.
In a really weak position and they're pedaling. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's the end of my terrible story time. I hope you enjoyed that. Martin K. Lell. What's the height from ground to handlebar? I don't know if that's really
I honestly don't know. Maybe 115 or something centimeters.
That's a pretty good guess, dude.
I think that is roughly. Here. I don't know.
Okay, hip height, Martin. Yeah. Hope that answers that. K Dog 91. What makes trials riders choose trials over other types of riding? I feel like he kind of answered this already, but it's a good question. So
yeah, I guess it all just kind of comes down to your circumstances of. Well, that's what it was for me, and I suppose it comes back to just being something that you can do, or you can at least start pretty much anywhere. I always like the fact that you don't really need to rely on anyone to do it. We have trails where I grew up in Inverness, but even then you still kind of would need my mum or dad to drive me there. I just loved the fact that I could just go home from school and just tell them you're going out on your bike rather than having to wait around for them or ask them to take you anywhere. So
yeah,
that was definitely a huge factor for me.
Yeah, the whole being able to just leave your door and entertain yourself for a day.
And I still find that obviously I can drive myself places now, but still the ability to if you have 2 hours, you can do 2 hours riding, or if you have an hour, you can do an hour riding. It's not
I've never thought about how long is a session
on trials bike. Honestly, now probably not that. I'd say I ride I'd rather ride an intense hour and a half than go out for 3 hours and just cruise around.
When you're younger, you do all day.
Yeah, you just it'd be more interactive with other people. Not that I don't ride with other people now, but you would go out with a big group of people when we were younger, and you would just kind of be out all day. You wouldn't be riding all that day. You'd be cruising around, chilling for lunch, riding. But I'd say between 1 and 2 hours. I would say
1 and 2 hours.
But that's of intense.
Yeah.
Like I said, go out and just beast it and not really
feel
stop.
it afterwards as well. Yeah. It's actually, honestly, talking to you, dude, has made me think it's important to keep up the things that, as I've got older, I've with dirt jump riding, I've definitely pushed it to the afternoon a bit, and that's sort of a shame. It probably comes at a cost, and I need to respect the thing that taught me how to ride, I guess.
It's funny that, yeah, I'm probably the same. Where it's funny that something that's so much fun, so rewarding, still kind of, no matter how often you do it and it is class, it still requires a bit of a thought. But I think it comes back to the fact that you need to make it happen a bit more.
Yeah.
And I think with e-bikes, that's a bit of an issue. Like, a bit of a downside of the e-bike is that it's so much fun.
A crack.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, it is literally like you almost have like a come down.
Yeah, like
after
the serotonin.
Because it's like
Instant.
it's almost like a cheap thrill in that. Mountain biking was fun anyway, but you've just literally removed that like hard work part of it out.
Yeah.
So I can understand in some ways why people don't like them, but my argument of e-bikes is they're almost like too good.
Yeah.
And it does make it quite hard because like if I need to ride, or if I want to ride that day, it's quite, even though no matter how much I love riding my trials bike, the e-bike's just like sitting there as this like
Charged up.
easy charged up option.
Yeah.
Where you don't really need to like make much of an effort to have like a really class time.
Yeah, it's true. But then ultimately the when you do make the effort, you make it happen. It is almost.
Yeah, it's more rewarding. Well, for me, it's definitely more rewarding.
It's for me as well, but
Yeah.
I think I just forget it almost.
Yeah. Like, do you find like for yourself is dirt jumping still like the thing that gets you the most?
Yeah.
Like even more so than riding the mountain bike.
It's just the thing I feel the most. It's like different. Like riding my mountain bike, I try and go as quick as I can sometimes, or I'll. In order for it to be exhilarating, I have to really go some pace, and it's quite a lot of effort in an athletic way. Whereas a dirt jump bike, it's like I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it is really taxing. It's like you're doing like wild squats and it's big G's and stuff, but I've done it the longest and it's the most second nature, I think. Like I can not do it for ages, which is probably why, you know, the things that not come easiest, but you almost take the things for granted the most, don't you? So I can still go up the trails. I can still pull up really hard. I don't do as many tricks now anymore, but there's nothing like the feeling of being weightless for me still on a dirt jump bike.
I'm definitely envious of you guys when you see just like, even if there's no tricks, just like that sort of, those scenes of you guys just, I don't know where it is that you guys ride near.
Yeah, like all the dirt jumps around.
And it's just like, when you see, especially when there's a few of you, and it's just like popping, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that.
I've never been able to surf, but I always wanted to be able to. I always loved that about surfing, and it's the closest thing in riding for me. It's that atmosphere. It's like the trails, everyone's there, everyone watches everyone's runs, and there's something about, because I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I really love that. And I don't pay it enough time or respect, probably. Bad. Right, more questions. I'm keeping an eye on the clock. I'm keeping an eye on. Cole Ham, what happened to your POD, and why do you always have the worst after-party injuries and hangovers?
Wait, what's POD?
I don't know. What happened to his pod?
Oh, right, okay. And then what was that on? Why do I always have the worst?
I thought this might be one of your mates or something.
Ah, no.
Worst after-party injuries and hangovers.
So
what's the pod?
I guess what happened to my podcast is...
oh, your podcast. I thought... right, okay, right.
I think that's what you mean.
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
I don't really have a good reason why I don't... Well, my main excuse as such is probably because when I moved to Inverness, I always wanted to do the podcast in person.
Yeah.
Because I would prefer it. Like, if you're being a guest on a
better,
podcast where you're doing it, it's so much better. I had a couple of bad experiences of doing them online. Where not bad experience, I just didn't...
The delay.
Just didn't enjoy it, and the whole thing was like... And once you kind of lose that, like, chillness, the whole thing suffers.
Yeah.
When I moved to Inverness, it was just so much harder to line up guests in person. And then, I just kind of got out of the way of doing it. I really want to do like another season at least. I actually, Dave Maxon, who you know, did a sweet job of redoing our drop and roll bus so I can actually do podcasts in the bus.
Oh, I bet it's so clean and tidy.
it's honestly, it's mint.
Yeah. I'll come and I'll do a podcast with you.
You
make
should,
it messy for
us. I was like, it's honestly so dialed. I'm like, maybe we should just rent it out to like random folk who do podcasts. Yeah. Like, it's like a mobile studio. So I'd love to do. I feel like the only way for me to do podcasts in person is if I basically go on like a trip for like a week and bash out like 6 or something like that, or more even, and then let them like come out the following week. It's
annoying because I really enjoy doing them, and if something's something you really enjoy, you shouldn't feel bad about asking someone, but there's still something weird about asking someone, and you still feel stupid. Like even the 2 words, my podcast, feels weird, doesn't it?
But having said that, I have one thing other than the actual difficulty of actually pinning them down and getting them into the studio. I've been amazed at how receptive pretty much everyone I've asked to be on it
Yeah.
has been. Like, even people who you know are like super busy, super successful, like athletes, and almost everyone will get back to you. At least being up for it in principle. Obviously, it gets difficult when you're like, okay, cool, can you do it like then? And then because I'm not super busy, but I'm away a lot, and then to try and line up me with somebody else who's busy is such a nightmare, especially up in Inverness. So I guess that's the main reason. And what was the other question? Why do you have the worst after party injuries and hangovers? I actually don't usually have that bad hangovers. This is probably someone who was in Barcelona, because we had this big group street ride in Barcelona back in January, and I hadn't ridden for like a month before that in the trials, because it's like Christmas, and I was actually on this like GCN shoot on a gravel bike randomly, and I rocked up to Barcelona, and I was so excited to be riding. I just like completely like tore the arse out of it riding the first day. So like I was literally so fucked.
Really?
Like my arms were screwed like for days, and then I was also hungover as well. So just like a combination that meant I pretty much like didn't ride for like the whole week. I just did like all my riding in one day.
So this is someone from there, is it?
I don't know, maybe. But the after party injury was, we did drop and roll shows at EWS in 2021, and Danny had like his big camper, and there was like, it was in Olython, so there's like nowhere to party basically.
Yeah.
So we just basically like opened the doors, and there must have been like 100 people or something in that bus. And I was actually sitting on a table drinking a bottle of wine, and somebody, I think it might have even been Eddie Masters, but I'm not blaming him, it wasn't his fault. Somebody was basically like on the table, and they like leaned over onto my leg as I was like reaching for a bottle of wine.
Yeah. And
I just felt my knee just like popped, and I never had it before, and it wasn't even like super sore. But I was just like, oh fuck, I was like, that something just didn't feel right.
No. And
I was like, I woke up the next day, I'm like, oh fuck, I was like, there's something not right with my knee. And I went and got an MRI, and it was basically, I literally thought it was going to be like the end of my potential riding career, because the doctor told me that it was like a grade 3 tear, or it was like a 2+/3. And like, it's basically of my LCL, which is like your lateral collateral ligament. So it's like, it's not super important when you're like walking, but it's basically what stops your knee from like going out like that way.
Yeah.
So it never was like, it was actually fine to walk, but it was basically like, oh well, you can't really like put it under stress. You can't. Yeah, it was like if you like never fell off, you'd be sound, but you can't like hop up a wall and like jump back down. And because your knees, you've just got this vulnerable like. And I had like this, I had a 2, it was called a 2+, which they couldn't quite tell from the scan whether it was completely detached or not.
Yeah.
And basically, like, if it's detached, it'll never heal without an operation.
Yeah.
And I was actually going out to Rampage on this trip that we had planned. So I decided just to put a brace on it and just like see what happened for 2 weeks, because this surgeon wanted to give me an operation. He was like, nah.
Really wanted to go on holiday.
He was like, well, honestly, like literally saved me, because this guy wanted to, he was like, it's like a private surgeon. It's going to cost like $5,000 for this like operation. Whoa. Where they basically like, cut your knee open, rip, like take out the damaged ligament, and they do some sort of graft. They take another ligament somewhere else.
A hamstring or whatever it is.
Somewhere, yeah. But it's like a really intrusive operation, and like
6 months job.
Yeah, like at least 6 months, like crutches for the first 2 kind of thing. I was just like, oh fuck. Luckily I went away, came back, and I got another scan, and like there was just enough like holding on that it started like healing basically. Yeah. And like it was literally like, if you think of like the ligament, it was like 85% of it was like all the things. So it's just like enough to basically keep it together, and it starts healing, which is insane. And so luckily I didn't get that operation, because otherwise I would have been like, yeah, like you say, it probably would have been like 10 months or something. It's always worth
getting another opinion, isn't it? You'd think that there's just one answer, but it's like,
it kind of pissed me off a little bit, to be honest, because it's so bad how I feel bad. Like, it's kind of mental that if I just said yes to that, like he would have just gone in there, and even and I'm like, would he have, if he had like opened that up and like saw that it was still connected, would he have just like sewn me back up and like told me it's sound, or would he just have like whipped it out and done that full thing? Because I was literally like riding again within, it was still a bad one. It was like maybe 3 months or something. But that's a hell of a lot better than having to fork out like 6K for some
A whole year off.
Yeah. But it's hard to tell. I don't know.
Is there anything you want to like? Do you want to like send a message out to Eddie or anything? I'm always looking out for sort of any potential controversy that we can spread on the podcast. Maybe like some sort of like rematch or something. Some sort of jiu-jitsu match between you and Eddie Masters.
Honestly, it's such a thing. I can't remember what happened.
Let's just say it's Eddie Masters for the purpose of this podcast. Can we? Can you do it like a really serious message?
What?
A really aggressive.
I don't know him well enough to give him like any crap. Seems like a nice guy.
Mate, you're dishing out on Hans earlier.
Oh, that's fine. I don't know. I know him much. I know him well enough. And I don't feel bad because he gives me so much abuse anyway.
Yeah. Right.
Online and the person. He trolls me. Like, he is a troller. I'll do like a line and he'll be like, 1.8? That wasn't what he'd be like. I was like 1.75 max. I'm just like, leave me alone. Just like.
That's so cool though, having that relationship with like a hero.
It's honestly insane.
Dream.
Yeah.
I've got a few more, and then we'll let you get on your way. I think someone wants to know whether you can buy your bike.
At the moment, no, but there has been a little bit of
murmurs.
Chat. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on. The Matt V, who's like the CEO of Marin, is like such a cool guy, and he's so into the idea of
wicked,
like doing something with it.
Yeah,
which is obviously really important when you want it to actually happen. It's difficult with trials bike. It's difficult because like the specking of it's really hard. Because like I would love to be able to make a trials bike that just made things a little bit more accessible. If it was like a sort of cheaper one, but it's so hard to make a good cheap trials bike.
Yeah,
it isn't just gonna like break immediately. So there's kind of
yours is quite a dream bike now for you, is it?
The spec that I have, yeah, it's like you pretty much like there's like not really anything you'd want to change in it.
What's the frame?
So the frame's this like Marin made me this custom trials bike. It's alloy, but again, I
always thought it's carbon.
Yeah, it looks carbon, but it's alloy.
It does, yeah.
So it's pretty. The fact that they'd already done the Alcatraz for Matt,
right,
made it a lot easier.
Yeah,
they'd already kind of done it. They had like a lot of the tubing that they knew was going to work.
Okay, yeah.
So that was really good, and that kind of like paved the way for it, and they kind of knew that they could do it. But yeah, it's been class. Like I was obviously been riding like inspired trials bike for years, and they've been so good, and what those guys have done for street trials is amazing. And they've like the bikes were so dialed. I was definitely not worried, but like you never know what's gonna be like with a new bike. But
yeah, whatever
the tubing and stuff on that bike, which I think is the same as the Alcatraz, I'm not sure. Because it's like hydroformed, is it?
Yeah.
It's not got gussets and stuff, which I was a bit like, but it's been like dialed. I've just been
wicked,
giving it so much abuse, and it'd be cool. I'd love for it to be available at some point, whether it's like a frame kit or a full build.
So that's custom forks as well.
The forks I have on my bike are inspired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because forks again are such a hard one to do. Like we wanted to just we wanted to just use inspired forks and not like hide the fact that they're inspired forks. So I still have like the branding and stuff in them.
Cool.
Because they've like worked so hard to make them over the years, to make them. You're basically just like you know what it's like when a trials bike. You're basically just like trials bike is basically like someone trying to like pull your bike apart like over and over again. So it's quite a lot of stress.
Yeah. What PSI do you run? Fairly dry question for you.
I feel like this is just like all my trials geeky chat is just going to be boring people to death.
No, not at all. I think it's fascinating.
Honestly, it sounds weird. I don't actually really know exactly. It's usually like 30, 35.
There you go.
Which isn't as soft as people probably think. 'Cause they look like they're soft sometimes, but just because I'm fat and I'm going on the points of things.
I suppose you still got to roll though, haven't you?
Yeah. So with street trials, you're trying to get that balance between like still being able to like grip on like a rail, but still being able to roll relatively fast and carve. You don't want your tire to squirm if you're like doing a 360 or anything. Yeah, so I ride tubeless, front and rear, and then like a rear insert.
Yeah.
Which has been like total game changing for being able to just like smash into stuff.
They fixed a few rear pinches.
It's like be brutal for punchers back in the day with tubes. You'd almost just like not do stuff because you know you're gonna get punctures.
Yeah.
Whereas between like riding those like reserve carbon rims with like the rim packed, it's insane. You just like pretty much forget about it and just fucking hammer it into everything.
Rad. Right, we're going to have to wrap this up. You got anything you want to promote? What are you doing next? What's next?
Actually wanting to make a proper video again. Like
Is
a street
it
video.
Seggy, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a thought though, because it's like you just have to kind of bring it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel I want to do it, and I need something like to sort of get me going in the trials. Like, not that I should need that external pressure, but I want to actually make a video, but not just like a go out and shoot for a day kind of video. I want to like spend like a good few weeks or months even like going on like maybe a combination of different trips, like ride some. There's some lines I want to do at home, like Inverness.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in Glasgow that I've had my eye on for a few years from when I lived there, and then maybe like do a couple of trips.
So it's easy
Right
to
into the
consume
content.
these things. It's easy to watch these 3-minute long edits, but the reality of you going out and filming them is quite a lot more work than.
Oh yeah, and it's like it's hard to. It's expensive as well. It's like want to get like you don't want to, if you're going to be doing your best stuff, you don't want to just like have some random film in it. You want to have like a good filmer, and then it's amazing how much it can end up costing. And it's like it's hard though, because in the world of vlogs and stuff, it's hard to like justify going out and spending like I don't know a month with a filmer to make a video that won't necessarily get any more views than like a vlog. But I still personally feel there's like more there's more personal values to me for that to actually go and make like a riding video. And there's definitely space for both, I think.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I know I love to see when like a certain rider that I like puts a video out, I'm always going to be excited and going to make the effort to watch it, whether that's a trials rider,
Anything, yeah.
mountain biker, skater, BMX rider. So
I think like the hard lines, difficult, like challenging riding, when you're in the right frame of mind, it's like the number one thing you want to do, I feel like.
yeah, it's like without competition, that for me that's like the pinnacle of what you're
Yeah.
ever going to do and what you're going to have to look back on. Like
Yeah,
when
but
you're
creating that on a Wednesday afternoon in Inverness and you're paying someone 700 quid to be there with a
Yeah.
camera is way harder than you'd ever know from watching it.
oh,
for 2
100%,
minutes,
yeah.
right?
But I think it's like once you get over that line of making it happen, it's definitely worth it. And I think even from a financial perspective, I do think marketing managers and brands or stuff like that as a whole will still see that as value. Like I know, like I made a video with Dave Mack in Australia, and again it was like quite hard to justify personally, financially, to like go all the way out there and do it. But in the long run, I know it's like part like that video, even if it like got me one sponsor
Yeah,
that I then had like since then, it's like
good investment.
easily going to pay back for it. But again, it's still like hard one to try and justify.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I'll be
definitely
hyped
worth
to
doing
see it anyway. And thanks very much for coming.
No
I
worries.
can't believe
Cheers
you
for having us.
flew all the way down just for the podcast. It's really impressive.
Nah, it's been class. Cheers for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Peace and love. Oh, I feel a bit deflated now. I feel like it's all coming to an end. This
Aw,
episode's
doesn't have
finishing.
to.
No?
No, people can watch another clip if they want. It's down there,
That easy?
down here, somewhere. They can subscribe up there.
Is it that easy? Yeah.
Yeah. They can follow us on Instagram at The Ride Companion.
That's true.
They can follow you personally at @OW_23.
Yeah.
They can check out the website.
Oh, it'd be nice if they did,
They
actually.
can sign up to the mailing list.
So what you're saying is it just continues?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. So the podcast just continues into real life?
Yeah, we just integrate it into the real life. We're
I've had
not
an
just
idea,
podcast people.
actually.
What?
We could continue it into real life even more
Ooh.
in Mexico. Am I right?
Oh, mate, if you want to come on holiday with us, we're going to eat tacos, ride bikes in Oaxaca in December, then head to the website to find out more information, or in the show description, there is more details.
Man, does that sound good.
Arriba.
That's it. That's your Spanish.
See.
Oh!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like and subscribe.
Peace.